Hi, everybody. Welcome to the FreeMind podcast. We have Adam Kroener here from Carbliss, and we are looking forward to talking to him today about his origin story and have a very unique story here with Adam and his wife, Amanda. And welcome in Chershin, my co-host here. Looking forward to getting into this today. Excellent. Well, hey, Adam, we appreciate you taking the time today. We're going to give you right off the bat, just kind of let's talk about where everything came from. You have a lot of different dynamics to this product, and give us kind of initially what the product is and what it's about, and then a little bit about personally with you and Amanda and how you guys got to the table.
Yeah. So the product is Carbliss. At the end of the day, it is a handcrafted cocktail that I used to make in my own bar that has a very appealing nutrition panel. We've got vodka cranberry, vodka lemonade. The lemon lime is like a vodka press. And they're all no sugars, no carbs, 100 calories, and they're all gluten-free. As far as how it kind of came about, so my past history is I'm from Wisconsin and had history running a cheese manufacturing plant as well as a pizza co-packing plant, both of them co-packing plants actually. And so in 2018, seltzers are starting to take a rise, at least in Wisconsin. Each state's a little bit different. It was May. We were doing keto, low carb, low sugar, and we tried what is now a very mainstream seltzer, standing in a lake, and I actually spit it back out, as did my wife. She drank it, but was not a fan at all. And just looking at it, like my buddy was like, hey, 2 grams of carbs, 2 grams of sugar, 100 calories, 5%. Sounds awesome. Just that was not worth it to consume alcohol to me at all. Very quickly, like my head went to the point of, okay, well, you can make stuff at home. Vodka doesn't have any carbs or sugar. And at that time, I honestly did not know that, the White Claws, Trulies, Henrys, I didn't know those were all beer, malt, or sugar base. So started mixing stuff up with vodka and very quickly, my friends and family realized I had this bottle of vodka and a bunch of ice cubes and all my stuff, taking it everywhere. And we do a lot of stuff with friends in the summer and people want to try it. So they'd tell me that it was great. And after hearing that a few weeks, I was like, well, somebody else had to have done this. So I went to the stores and bought probably about $500 worth of stuff. If it said low carb, low sugar, low calorie, I bought it. And it, to me, all tasted pretty much the same. Like there's different brands and they have different flavors. They sometimes call that innovation. And it was just all the same to me. So at that point I was like, well, that's interesting. Maybe we should put it in a can. And started talking to my wife about it. Then she asked me what my plan was if we put it in a can. I said, well, we're going to put it in a can. I'll just sell the shit out of it. And she's like, no, like, man,
easy enough.
Right. She's like, no. What's your plan? I'm like, I just told you my plan. We're going to put it in a can. We'll sell the shit out. So she's an accountant by trade. So very black and white. That answer was not good for her.
I was going to say, so I don't think that plan was what she was expecting when she was like, what's your plan?
Yeah. So coincidentally enough, somewhere in there, she had given me a list of like 20 questions. And that was kind of the guidelines of our first business plan. But in the meantime, as we're like talking about how we could maybe do it, anytime we're at a bar or restaurant or really anywhere out in public, at this time, the main ones were White Claw, Truly, Henry's had like a hard water, hard soda out at the time. Those are the main ones I was seeing. And we would ask like, why are you drinking that? And 9 times out of 10, the answer I would get is it's low carb, it's low sugar, it's low calorie. I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like, do you like the taste? Like, I love Bloody Marys, and it sure as heck isn't because of the nutrition panel. And every those same 9 out of 10 would be like, yeah, it's okay. Like that was the best answer I was getting. And the first one we ever made is now our lemon. It doesn't have sugar, so the government wouldn't let us call it lemonade, but I was calling it a vodka lemonade. So I would ask them, well, imagine that low carb, low sugar, you could have like a vodka lemonade, except for it had all of that. Would you rather drink that? And all those same people were like, oh yeah, for sure. So that was kind of our validation of like, okay, Adam and Amanda aren't the only ones that think that this type of drink should exist. We officially made our business in September of 2018. We launched in Wisconsin, our home state, in September of 2019. There's a whole bunch of minutia in that 1 year. And I'd say, we aren't from alcohol beverage. We have a very good, well-rounded between the two of us business background. But that was the benefit of doing what I did in the cheese and pizza world, is running those co-packing plants. I knew that this little thing I was making at the bar, if I could find somebody to put it in a big scalable batch, I could likely find somebody to put it all together and put it in a can. And all of that with the federal government fund over the next year is what led us to launching in September of 19 in Wisconsin.
That's awesome. And and something we were talking about before we started this podcast was how it fits in this two categories, right? Like it has all of the nutritional panel of a seltzer, but it also sits in the RTDs, or the ready to drink cocktails segment as well, with the flavors and how it drinks. Was that it kind of, from what you were just saying, it does kind of sound like, it was intentional, but were you intending to say we can play in the seltzer market and we can play in the RTD, or were you just saying I want something better than what I'm seeing?
So the latter. I'd be pretending like I knew what any of those markets were. Like, right. we were not from alcohol beverage. So it was not knowing necessarily that these mainstream ones are beer. So the vodka is now premium, great, kudos, but we didn't try to. Yeah. So it was making a clean, refreshing drink that was drinkable and didn't taste like what was currently on the market. The cool thing is like the lower carbonation was intentional to mimic literally the cocktail we were making at our bar.
Yeah.
The added benefit that we've gotten a ton is, hey, Adam, when I have 3 or 4 of these, I don't get that chesty, bloated feeling that I do with seltzers, which I would assume at this point is just the ton of carbonation that's causing it.
Yeah.
So not intentional, but call it good luck. When
necessity is the mother of invention, right? Like, you're just it wasn't, you're like, oh, I don't like this, I want something better. Sometimes that is the best origin, is just I don't want what I have in front of me. It's similar to the craft beer industry, where like I just don't. That it wasn't in front of some of these guys in the late 70s and early 80s, and they were like, well, let's just make our own. And this RTD market is just in the infant stages. Like, what I mean? The laws are starting to catch up to try to figure out how to do, canned cocktails where you can't buy them in grocery right now in certain states. So you got to go to the liquor store, but then they're losing out on significant. So you're seeing it's when it starts to change laws, that's when you're in the right market.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I mean, even more so, and every state's a little bit different. Most people don't understand the taxation differences from a consumer level.
Yeah.
Because they're similar. They don't know a lot of these are beer, and that's why the big guys do it, right?
Right.
But to have, we're priced anywhere from $9.99 to $12.99 per 4-pack. To do a sampling and watch somebody grab 3 of ours, knowing they're going to pay about $30 to $40, and take a 12-pack of one of the beer seltzers and put it away, they don't think twice about it, is the most amazing thing in the world, because that's when like the product is exactly what they were looking for.
How many states are you currently in, Adam?
We're currently in 6 states. So we're in Wisconsin, we're in Iowa, we're in Arkansas, and New Jersey as far as whole state. And then Maryland, we're with 3 distributors, and then Louisiana, we're in the northwest portion of it right now. And we'll be entering into likely about 3 more states in February of next year, at least 3 states.
When you were running through a lot of, we have listeners and people in our network that are in similar scenarios, and you trying to figure out, okay, I want to cover a certain regional area or cover certain states, and kind of beginning that process of understanding, okay, how do I, from the back end of things, I'm sure I'm going to assume that falls on Amanda with like all the legalities and permitting and licensing and everything like that for each of the different states expansions, then going through the process of interviewing all the wholesalers. How did that process go? I mean, going from like non-industry to industry, and then opening up 6 states, and obviously it wasn't just single shot distributor interviews and stuff. So that was I'm sure a time consumption there for you.
Yeah. So I'll try to keep this as sweet as possible, because this distribution journey has been a hell of a one. So my pen pal in fourth grade was a sales manager for Badger Liquor at Wisconsin. I started talking to him in October of 18, had gotten somebody's information and had been messaging Badger, couldn't get anybody to answer. In the meantime, a friend of mine from high school, she works for Kroger as a category manager. So she got me the alcohol contact. Another guy who I graduated high school with was my financial representative, like everybody's is. He was an intern at General Beverage in Wisconsin. So I had gotten the General Beverage information. I was able to link up with the liquor buyer for Pick and Save, which is Kroger. And so I met with her, and it was really more like, hey, is this a product you'd be interested in? I firmly believe that if I can solve a problem for the retailer, I'm golden. So it was more of a discovery, like, what do you need? And she told me about GS1 certified labels, or UPCs, which was awesome, and just gave me some guidance as far as packaging. So then I was able to go to General Beverage and say, hey, Roundy's would be interested from talking to this person. And they were like, well, I know you don't have pricing. It was only in a bottle, and I just had a concept of our can on PowerPoint. And they were like, yep, we definitely go with something like this. Called my buddy, the pen pal, and said, hey, General Beverage is interested in the product. I'm done chasing Badger. Badger had statewide. And I'm just going to build it to the point where Badger's going to wish they would answer my call. And he said, well, coincidentally, Gary Sadoff, which is the owner of Badger, just had a conversation with us about RTDs. Who were you contacting? And I gave him the name and number, which I did not get from him. And he's like, oh, that guy retired 4 months ago. So he had been there for so long that they never turned off his email. So I didn't get an auto reply. I think, his voicemails were probably still being looked at, and who the heck's going to answer a cold call when they're retiring? Right. So anyway, a week later, I was with their new GM of spirits. He loved it and decided to bring it on. And Badger was the partner that I wanted to be with in the beginning. So that was state one. So it was kind of a nice, it was a long process, but we got there. Shortly after that, I hired some consultants out of Florida to do, it was this pretty big promise of, hey, I wanted to grow organically, logistically, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois. And they're like, well, between California, Texas, Florida, you guys know the ones.
Just high spot all the population areas for you.
Yes. And so I did the math, and I was like, well, man, it's 5 extra states, but it's 21x the population of Wisconsin. Let's go. So those consultants in the first 6 months got me the state of Nebraska and Colorado.
The least populated area.
So Colorado I was excited about. Denver's a cool market. They got me the whole state, just like Badger Liquor and Adam's non-alcohol eyes. One of the distributors had, I think, a CEO and a salesperson. That was it. And then the other one had maybe 5 sales team members for the whole state.
Yeah.
I'm not working with them anymore. That was part of my learning curve. Is I was taking what I could get for a while. And when I've been coaching a few other brands, and the biggest thing I have right now is just go hard where you're at. And that just gives you the stories to tell the other places. So we moved on to a new consulting partner in September of last year. They're pretty aggressive. Got us a few beer folks. I thought I had to go liquor. So they got us New Jersey, the partners we have in Maryland, Arkansas, and Louisiana. And so we've got some Miller partners, we've got some AB partners, and one more liquor partner out in New Jersey. I have now figured out that the beer partners are the better piece for our market. And it's not, Badger's been honestly just killing it. And I think part of that's the homegrown stuff. But at the end of the day, if I'm a liquor guy and I can make $50 on a case of Jack, or I can make $12 on a case of Carbliss, which one is my preference? All things being 25% margin, I'll take the $50 all day. Now the beer guys, they might make $5 on Busch lattes, or they can make $12 on Carbliss. Makes it more of an upsell and an opportunity buy for them. And honestly, beer guys just execute the crap out of everything. So that's where we've been moving from a market perspective. We are now focusing on central. And one of the things that I learned is just the value of having somebody in there. Before I got into distribution, and I've shared this with a few people, my thought process was like, oh, Badger Liquors have got 100 salespeople. I don't need to build a sales force. I got a distributor, right? And you guys are laughing. I can see it because you know exactly where I'm at.
Yeah.
We have doubled down on the flip side. We want to be a personal brand in each market. I don't want to be faceless. A lot of these big brands are coming out with things that compete with us. It's 5% of their portfolio, and it's going to get 5% of the attention. This is 100% of what we do, and we're going to give it 100% of our attention. We're putting people in each market, and it's really twofold. One, I'm in control of my own destiny. I want to partner with great distributors who believe in the brand. At the same time, we're going to focus on building a team that does it for us. And the other piece is that when I'm in a state like New Jersey, Maryland, Arkansas, I don't know about Johnny who's having surgery and needs a donation to help raise money. If I've got somebody in the market, we learn more about that, and then we can be a physical part of the community, which is important to us. So that was a really long-winded way of distribution.
It was perfect. It was perfect. And honestly, everyone, it's one of those things that it's getting into. One of the things that we're talking about that wholesale expansion is, sometimes you can get into those scenarios where it's like the Wizard of Oz pulling the curtain back, and all of a sudden it's like, it's not what you thought it was. And that's unfortunate. It's not all the cases, obviously. And there's a lot of great distributors out there. And just speaking from my experience in the wholesale world, there's a bit of everything in there. And it's a lot of that legwork leading into it. And some of it's monotonous, doing those interviews. But I like your strategy, because actually, to be honest, your strategy is a lot like ours. It's get to retail, get as close to the consumer as possible, figure out what that is, and then follow yourself back the supply chain to then choosing the proper distributor. A lot of times, a lot of people go, oh, I just want the biggest. The biggest is great, but it's not always depending upon which brand you are, which package you are, and especially for something like yours that is as unique as it is. Because just like we talked about in the beginning, where is it an RTD? Is it a seltzer? Is it this? Is it that? That type of conversation, something that Tertian had talked about in one of our other recordings was the complications that can happen when it's basically a giant game of nationwide telephone, where you take your message, give your message to your brand manager, hope your brand manager effectively gives that to the sales rep, then hope the sales rep effectively gives that to the retailer, then hope the retailer effectively conveys that to the consumer. That's a lot of touch points for a message. And there's a lot of things that can break down in there. And that's where I think, I think, as you say that you're new, but you have the foundational, acumen to see where the process needs to go.
Yes. Right. And just to touch on that, I'm listening to you talk about kind of your distributor process and, the sometimes hard truths that you learned and how you've adapted. Bro, you have got some knowledge from the short couple of years that you've been in there that people over 10 years still haven't learned yet. I'm impressed because you have, you're reading the situation correctly and you're adapting to it. Everybody can tell you they can give you the world, and you talk about your consultants from Florida, and but you shifted and found partners that were more in tune with what you wanted to do. And then once you got to that point, the lessons that you learned about who you want to be as a brand, it's not just about, hey, I learned I don't want to work with distributors like this. It taught you, at least from what you're talking about and what it sounds like, is it taught you who you want to be as a company. And I think that is, learning who you want to be that quickly is man, it's impressive, but it's also such a win for you. That you want to be personal. You want to put a face to your brand. You don't just want to be someone on the shelf, and you're executing to get there. And so I'm happy for you that you found a little bit of the identity of your company in some of the challenges that you went through. But those lessons don't come usually this quick. So kudos, man.
And another either.
another one too is the I had a old colleague of mine that used to say when a lot of craft breweries came out, it was like a lot of guys with a good t-shirt and a dream, and that's like they had a great t-shirt design. And one of the things that because a lot of guys would walk in, especially when I was at the wholesaler, brand management and wholesale, you get a lot of samples coming in, you get a lot of things on your desk and growlers, random things, and people trying to pitch to get in the portfolio. But not a lot of people come with data of experience. And I don't mean experience like 20 years. I just mean, this is my experience. I've had a focus group. I've gotten outside opinions. It's not just me and my friends and my parents that are trying my home brews or my idea. I think that already has built you up for this success. That's the answer as far as how you have grown so fast from going into this industry like fresh into where you are now, is the fact that you're open to opinion and you're getting the opinion, and you know that you walk into the door of a distributor and say, hey, I have this great product. Can you carry it and invest in me? You're coming in them with data and stories, whether anecdotal, but also hard data. That's what distributors want. And that's what retailers want too. They want to say, this is what I've done in Nebraska and this is what's working. Can we replicate this here, or do we need to adapt a different plan here? Because the way you sell in Florida is different than the way you sell in Virginia, and it's so different from the way you sell in New York. But at the end of the day, the base core of it is the same. The core of it is be open, be ready to pivot, and be ready to adapt to whatever scenarios come up. And I think, I can't say it enough. I just kind of echoing what Church just, I'm sorry, but that's.
Adam, I got one more kudos just to throw at you before we start throwing you some tough questions. When you talked about how you got your distribution, right? You talked about you went to the retailer, like you weren't just sitting back waiting for that distributor. You found someone at the retailer that told you what she needed to, just not even like product wise. I need to see this on my cans. The thinking at the point of not just, do you want my drink and drink it? You're like, what do you need to get me on the shelf? What do my labels need to have on them? What are the laws that are going to, you know what I mean? And maybe Amanda's not sitting here and she should be the one getting kudos for those questions since she's giving you lists. But when you're talking about like that kind of, I guess you can call it street smart, but that kind of intelligence of knowing that you need to see, it's not just, does it taste good and will people buy it? There is so much more that goes into it that I mean, you're far ahead of a lot of other people that we've had to talk to. And so that's the last kudos. I'm going to give you hard questions from here on out.
Thank you. I did want to say one other thing though earlier from a learning perspective. Again, I'm sure this is retail in general. Like, remember, I worked in manufacturing plants, so I've had sales roles in the past, but it wasn't in CPG. So we had one more distributor actually in Tennessee Nebraska and Colorado, we've decided in the last 6 months, like it's not going to work. And you had mentioned about, some are good distributors, some are not. I have no doubt that these people are very good distributors. One thing that I've realized throughout this, and I think I was too late in the game, is that, hey, as a brand, I got to give these guys support. So remember, out of the gate, it was, hey, they've got 5 salespeople. Great, go sell Carbliss. But we've now created a nice build out of, this is how many dollars of support we're going to give you. The person in the market, the whole social backing and having a better understanding of those numbers. We didn't have that before. So it was sell it to them and then, hey, why isn't it selling? Like, I was that asshole brand that no brand manager wants to talk to. And I wasn't a jerk about it, but it was just my lack of understanding. In June, we brought on, his name's Mike Dempsey. He's worked for a lot of bigger brands and done some amazing work as our head of business development. Because, when you look at what we're trying to do, wanted to have some people would say, oh, get a sales team and then bring the big dog in. I wanted to bring the big dog in because then he can build out process and we can replicate and know it's successful, rather than, oh, well, Johnny's doing great in that state and must be because he's a rock star,
Well, that was actually going to be my question because a lot of these lessons that you're learning are like, that's long-term experience when you're talking about having to support and using dollars spent with wholesalers and what your co-ops are. I mean, like those phrases. And I was going to ask you, is that something that you were just open to listening from distributors, or did you bring someone in that kind of was like, hey, look, this is how these things work?
It's a mixture. So I would say that like the first consultants that we were using probably asked me the question, like, what are you going to do for support? And I'm like, well, I'm going to give them a really good product. Like, without being direct, I didn't know how to answer it. And then our second ones, one guy was a head of sales for RumChata for years, and another guy had like built and sold another CPG business. So they were a little more direct, right? So like, hey, you need to give this much in depletion allowance. Well, what's a depletion allowance?
Right.
And the one thing I've found is all these distributors want it, but they will not ask for it, which is kind of strange. And now, so I'm always open to opinion as long as you can let me question you for 100 years so I can understand the process. So it was just learning the hard way. Honestly, we weren't getting it. And then that was the reason we brought somebody on. Is the consultants I know have the best interest in us because we're paying them. But at the end of the day, nobody's going to love us like we do. So nobody's going to understand our business like we do. And I don't want to share all my stuff with the consultant. So we wanted somebody to come in and really say, Adam, this is where we should go with the business because of my experience, what I know about the brand. And quite frankly, like I was talking to one of them like a month ago, and one of our states that they got us is not doing very well. The rest of our states are doing very well. And I don't want to name them, but I said, hey, I'm thinking about maybe moving away from XYZ. And they said, well, you need them more than you do, or than they need you. And that was their mentality, right? As a small brand, I need this distributor. At 10 cases a month, I don't need them. Yeah. They do nothing but cause me an administrative headache, Right. If they're off the blocks, much easier.
For sure, man.
So Adam, I'm going to do a curveball here off the distro part. Let's we'll get a little bit personal. You guys are a unique experience as well because you are a husband and wife duo.
Yeah.
So share a little bit about husband and wife duo with the family dynamics. And to be honest, the work probably never stops, I guess, at that point. So your crucial time to talk is probably when most people would have their personal time of downtime. So. Yeah.
And, so I am in the business full time. I did not do that until May of this year. So we were managing it on nights and weekends before that.
Congratulations. That's an excellent step and that fast.
Thank you. Yeah. And I was begging for it right away, but remember, she's an accountant. So she operates a finance wing for a car dealership still on the daily. So just super smart and direct. And I would say, it causes some challenges, but I'm hoping to be able to get her into the business next year. And part of that is her, I would say, ownership in what she's doing now. She wants to have a good segue plan, but it's a lot of like there's not much good one-on-one time from a relationship perspective. But I think we try to build in enough humor that we've figured it out. So fun fact, in 2014. She was a VP for a small energy consulting firm, and she hired me as a sales rep.
Whoa.
So that is where we met.
The meet cute story. Get to it.
Yeah. So like we were friends. So then I left that company about a year later, and then we were friends for about a year, and then we started dating. So we had a really good core where it wasn't like an attraction and a date. Like we got to know each other really, really personally. So some people get super offended, and neither of us really do. So she can be, hey, Adam, like you're too much into the business. Can we have 20 minutes of family time? And like, I might in my head be upset, but I know that if she's bringing it up, like I need to calm my shit.
Adam, I'll be calling into your podcast on relationships if later on if you get that started up.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's I wouldn't say I'm great at it. I think she's a very understanding person, and we've just decided to be flexible with each other, and that's part of the growing. Yeah, it's honestly been a really fun experience, and like so our best sampling to date, our God, I shouldn't have tried to use the date, but our youngest daughter was born March 25th of 2021. So rather fresh.
Excellent.
Yeah. Our best sampling we ever had was March 19th, 2021. We were about to put in a 30 or 60 case deal with our retailers in April 1 with Badger. And one of the sales reps had just sold in like 50 cases. Which is awesome. We had a nice big display, but I'm like, oh man, like these people could have saved a bunch of money if they would have waited a few weeks. Like I want to make sure this product moves. So we put on social, like, hey, if you buy 4 4-packs, we'll give you, which is legal in Wisconsin, not every state though, We'll give you 4 carbless glasses.
Sweet.
From a cost perspective, made 0 sense, but I wanted to make sure that retailer didn't get hosed. So my wife, at 8 months and 3 weeks pregnant, came and sampled with me, and we sold 24 cases in 2 hours, like wow. 24 cases of 6-packs.
Yeah, man. Awesome.
People were literally coming. I mean, they're $60-$70 a case when you're, and th're buying like 4 or 5 of them just so they could have a ton of glasses. Yeah. It was so cool. But that kind of stuff, like, it's a cool relationship experience, and then it's also a cool business experience. So, yeah. I mean, it's the point where my 4-year-old like counts the carbless cans and puts them in our cooler by color. And like, we're actually heading down to Arkansas next weekend to do a half family vacation, half market visit, so she can meet some people out in the retail space out there. So
that's awesome.
We just make sure to incorporate it into our life. Some people I think are really against that, but it's part of us. So.
With your history, and this is not in the alcohol industry, but with your entire career of existence on planet Earth, you know, what do you think that do you feel like you had a skill set that kind of built over time that kind of led into this? Not necessarily calling it like predetermined destiny, but saying from a skill set standpoint that allowed you to have an infrastructure internally to navigate this. A lot of times people put a lot of focus on, I'm in alcohol sales, I can only do alcohol sales, but they don't realize, you know, once you understand the core principles of what we're doing, it is transferable in any industry. It's not really subjective to just this. So I guess my question is, were you always in this line of work, or were you completely in a different skill set and philosophy mentality that brought you into? Did you have to retrain your brain, I guess is what I'm trying to get to?
I would say the only, like, it's been a slow build of skill. So like I said, we round each other out, my wife and I. So she's had experience in smaller business, and also her current role is a group that's growing very fast. And then my experience was sales in recreation, and then the cheese factory stuff. And I worked my way up. And at the end, I was managing $9 billion or 9-figure budgets. And she's also done the same. So like, the concept was all there. I would say the challenging piece, and I've had to do a fair amount of learning, is just growing something and understanding that there's brand recognition that like our first sampling, right? So what we make, a few cents a can at the end of like profit. So to say, hey, we're going to go do a sampling, the 2 of us, and we usually sell, the minimum we usually sell is 3 cases. So that's 24, call it 100 cans at a sampling. And let's say we make 10 cents a piece. We made $10, right? Well, we drove, 2 of us, drove an hour, spent 2 hours. Like, at first, our business mindset was, wow, this is horrible return on investment. This is the worst thing in the world from a business perspective. But it's been reframing our brain and understanding that exercise is a branding exercise. And yes, I've got $100 in sales, but if I'm getting some brand recognition, getting a repeat buyers, it's probably going to turn into $2,000 in sales over the next 2 years. And really everything that we thought in the first few months was a dumb go-to, we've basically made part of our everyday business plan. Like, our samples to distributors, unlimited, take them. Liquid to lips is gold with our product. Sample them. Which we were really tight to the vest at first. Same thing with samplings. It costs us like $200, right? To have an agency do it. We've also built out a little homegrown team. But hey, you want a sampling? Let's go. And we are generally pushing it because every time we do, it's just this beautiful little scatter plot that comes out outside of it.
It's true. So the real question is Badger vodka cheddar. Like, when is that 4-pack hitting my shelf?
Badger what?
Vodka cheddar.
Oh, could probably put a little sample bottle with the new Arby's curly fry vodka. Huh?
That's what I'm saying. The beef and cheddar from Arby's vodka is coming, so you just got to get ahead
just
of it.
Sprinkle it right on top.
Badger's vodka cheddar from Wisconsin.
Can you imagine a cheese fry shot? Oh my goodness.
No, that cheddar vodka's got.
Is there anything more glorious?
Cheddar vodka. I mean, dude, with that Wisconsin Badger on there, big cheese head. We won't get into your boy Aaron Rodgers too much. I'm in upstate New York, so
yeah, don't judge.
Yeah. So last thing for me, Adam, would be kind of with everything you've done so far up to this date and kind of where you're constantly planning, what's on the horizon? Are you 2 states a year moving forward, 3 states a year? Like, do you have kind of things set in motion as far as 2022 and 3?
So 2020, so going back to the distribution thing, I want to focus on central United States. We've got a few partners on the East Coast. We want to focus centrally. Our manufacturing is in Iowa, and we are looking at adding on. We're not replacing. And we didn't get into that story. First 2 years, I went through 3 manufacturers, which is a horror story in itself, but we finally have a good one. But now we've grown to the point where we're going to be their Walmart next year. I don't want to be there. He doesn't want me to be there. So we're looking at a redundant one. But I want to fill out the central piece just from a logistics perspective. We're trying to run lean and slim from a staffing perspective. I'm going to get as many salespeople as I can out there, but keeping it close to the heart logistically is going to help. Big piece for me is excitement. Everybody wants to be in Texas. Everybody wants to be in California. Let's say I meet with, if I have a choice of one distributor and I meet with like the lowest volume place in Mississippi, and I meet with the highest volume place in Texas, and the guy in Texas says, I guess I could bring this brand on. Like it should fill a void in our portfolio. I think we could do all right with it. Or the place in Mississippi are like, oh my God, Adam, this is the most amazing thing in the world. I've heard this from distributors and I love it. I'm going to use this to take legs out of high noon. Like that's the person, like all day long, I will pick that partner in Mississippi. So the ideology is find good partners who are excited about the brand. And and a year ago, I would not have said this, but I will say no to somebody. I don't want the tag of another state.
Yeah.
Like that.
What a place to be though. You wouldn't have said that a year ago, but now you're like, I can choose where I want to be. I mean, that is the ultimate goal as you're growing as a company is it's on where you want to be. It's not where you have to be. Right. Like that's
there's definitely people that we'd like to be places
for sure. But I'm saying it's not everybody. Like, oh my God, somebody wants it. Like, just give like you're in a spot where you're like, that's not the partner for me. I mean, that's you're approaching a level of where people are hoping to get through in 5 years, and you're already there, man. So again, congrats. I said I wasn't going to do it, but kudos.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, Adam, if you have anything else to share with us, I mean, we're as far as that goes, any new product innovations you want to share, or we can call you back for another session if you'd like to give us an exclusive drop for you.
Yeah.
I would say let's wait on the exclusive drop because we're working on a few things. High level, what we're looking at is, so we do have this, like vodka cranberry, vodka lemon. Like part of the strategy behind that is very simplistic, right? Like I know a few brands who are doing hibiscus elderflower pear. That to me is a very hard sell because it's new and it's crazy. Now, me personally, I think they taste great. But this becomes a recognizable thing for the consumer. So now that we're gaining a little bit of brand recognition, we're looking at branching out. We'll definitely keep a simple line. But think about the classic cocktails that everybody loves, like vodka cranberry, vodka lemonade, or some of them. But think about the more complex ones. And wouldn't it be nice if I could have one of those without 500 calories and 100 grams of carbs? So, the way I look at it is the craft beer craze. If somebody could figure out how to make that stout have the same calorie content as Michelob Ultra, winning. And we're going to do the same thing in the cocktail market.
Smart. I love it. Everything. I love it. Excellent, Adam. Well, hey, we appreciate your time today. Please send our regards to Amanda. Next time we bring you back for that exclusive drop, we'll have you both there and together.
Yeah, that'd be great. Awesome.
Excellent. Hey, thanks a lot.
Thanks so much for your time, dude.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
All right.